it's that time of year. I know our guys had a really good summer and really good preparation. So really, we're turning to the next chapter now and the next phase, and that summer should carry over and help us this fall. But if you have any questions, ready to go.
Coach, Bill Cameron from The Drive on ESPN 106.7. Talking about, I mean, you've got a lot of experience there on defense. Who were your leaders? Who were the guys that stood out to you over the summer?
Well, Derek Hall is one that stands out consistently. Really from towards the end of last year and through January and then into spring, and it's carried through into the summer. Derek Hall, Owen Papo, Colby Wooden, those guys up front and in that front seven have done a really good job, as well as Donovan Kaufman has done a really nice job, and Zion Puckett.
Yeah, Mark Murphy, Inside the Auburn Tigers and 24/7 Sport. Can you talk about the linebackers as a group, what you'd like to see from the preseason camp?
Yeah, so I thought they did a great job. Christian Robinson's done a really nice job with those guys, and what we really want to see out of that group, and really the central theme on the defense, is competition. And we talked about that in the spring, and that's going to continue through fall camp. We believe iron sharpens iron, and both sides are competing. But when you start to add that depth, and you got guys like Cam Riley, who's put on some weight, and Wesley Steiner, and Eugene Asante, and Desmond Tisdale, really that group is competing every single day. And we were just talking about it, as a defensive staff, that really most of the positions, that's what we've been trying to create as a defense staff and as a program, is competition this time of year. We believe that the guys will rise to the top once that competition gets going.
Tom Green, AL.com. What does Craig McDonald bring to the safety position, and what did you guys see in him when you were recruiting that made you want to go out and have him?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, he brings a veteran presence. If you talk to Craig, it doesn't take long for you to understand that he loves football. When we were talking about players, there's a lot of other things in the world going on, but if they love football, it usually comes out in the conversation. So that was one of the first things that grabbed us. Obviously, the film and the way he plays, he's got a good physical presence about him, but we're excited to have a veteran presence back there and a guy who loves football. When I say loves football, he studies the game. And, at that position, you're a quarterback of the defense, and he brings that presence to us.
Coach Philip Marshall, Auburn 247. How would you say your life has changed in the last couple of years, going from where you were to where you are now?
Well, certainly geographically it's changed. It's quite a ways away, but just new experiences. I think that's what life's about, and our family moved as second move, moved from Eastern Washington University to Boise State, and then to Auburn. But what I will say is, rarely do you research a place and you hear things about it, and then those things are true. It's been a great community to be a part of, and like I say, you love Auburn, Auburn loves you back. So we've had a great experience.
Was there any kind of significant adjustment you or your family had to make, other than understanding the rest of us?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, hey, people. It's been great in that regard. I mean, one thing that people don't realize, and they think about, okay, this coach is moving to this spot or that spot, but there's our family. Our family is extremely important. We don't just say that, we live it, and that is the biggest adjustment overall, because the game is the game, right? And it's certainly played at an extremely high level here. There's no doubt about it, but that's really what I've done my whole life. So the adjustment is more for, the family and getting settled that way.
Jeff, Brian Matthews, Auburn Rivals. How important is it for your defense to develop some depth at the edge position this fall? And other than guys listed at the edge, are there some other guys you're going to work in there just for that depth?
Yeah, Brian, that's a good question. I mean, that's one of the top priorities for us, is building dependable depth. We talk about, not just being on the field, but being dependable. That's the consistency that goes along with that, communication, doing your job, those type of things. We talk about, the time to build trust isn't on 3rd and 1 in the Iron Bowl. That's got to be built from January all the way through. But there's a lot of guys in a lot of spots right now, in the secondary, up front, and on level 2 that are going to compete for those spots.
Coach, Dan Beck, ESPN 106.7. Your confidence level in Nehemiah and Jalen as your corners, and who else might be called upon to play some at that position?
Sure, those guys have experience, and and they've played in big games, and we do expect a lot out of them. That those positions out there, they're on an island at times, and certainly we're going to play multiple things, and you got to move the stress around as a coordinator, but at the end of the day, you got to lock somebody up too, and they've done a nice job. When you talk about JD Rim, you talk about Keontae Scott coming in, you talk about DJ James, you talk about a lot of guys that are going to get opportunities, and in the back end specifically, it goes back to the previous question. It's the same thing. It's competition, and Coach Etheridge is done a great job with those guys, and he understands. Obviously, played here and won a national title, so he understands what the mentality's got to be on that back end, and that is something that it's going to be a sliding scale every day. What's the trend? We talk about one good day and one bad day doesn't make a trend, but who can be consistent throughout camp?
Jeff, Justin Ferguson, Auburn Observer. You guys had Jeffrey Emma in the spring, but he wasn't able to practice. What have you seen from him over the summer, and what kind are you expecting from him once he gets out there in fall camp?
Yeah, if you talk about Amba, man, it brings a smile to your face. Like his personality, number one. I mean, he lights up a room, and that positive energy is just contagious. There's no doubt about it. And he loves football. He loves his teammates. He knows how to work. I'm excited to see him in pads. Obviously this summer I saw him in the workouts and those type of things, but certainly it doesn't take long for you to see the physical attributes. And he can run and do all those things, but like everybody else, he's got to be developed, and he's got to just get the core fundamentals and techniques. And Coach Brumbaugh's done a great job to this point with him. But I'm excited. The first thing I'm excited about is what I talked about, is the way he brings his energy and his love for the game and his love for his teammates, number one. But I'm really excited to see him put the pads on. There's no doubt about it.
Coach, you talked about the nickel position, guys you'll be looking at in the preseason.
Yeah, critical position, obviously. Donovan Kaufman has played that position, and we'll start there. We have guys like Keontae Scott that are new to us that we're gonna get a look at. Zion Puckett's played there. JD Rim, Nehemiah, depending on the situation. But that spot right now is one of those spots that we're gonna get some guys reps, and we're gonna compete at that spot. And that spot does a lot. That spot, you got to be able to cover, number one, but you've got to be able to blitz. You've got to be able to fit the run. We've got to be able to play in the post, all those things. So it's a critical position in our defense.
Brian Stoltz, Auburn Rivals.
How you doing, Brian?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Sorry about crawling in the floor. Jumping on his question, how much improvement have you seen from Donovan during the offseason?
I thought, one thing when we talk again about loving football and creating value for yourself, there's a guy that loves it. He studies it. He is one of the first guys, if not the first, up the decks when we're running those stadium stairs. He's a guy that is all over. If there's something to be done, he's communicating with the position. I've been really, really impressed with the strides he's taken physically, mentally, and really the leadership qualities that he's developed. And really those drivers, right? We talk about discipline, toughness, conviction. He's got all of that. But discipline and leadership are going to drive us forward, and he's one of those guys.
Jeff, Jason Caldwell, Auburn 247. You mentioned the nickel. How important is that versatility with you're going to see so many different types of receivers, to have guys that can do different things in there because of having to match up with so many different kind of guys.
Right, and really the word you said, the versatility. That's what we're looking for really in our whole defense, but specifically that position. You guys know as well as I do, you're going to face teams that are going to try to run the ball down your throat, and then you're going to play teams that are going to have a snap about every 13 seconds, right? So you have to have those players that can play first through fourth down, and that's one of those positions in football today, whether it's high school to the pros, that has to have versatility about it. Certainly you can match personnels and do those things in certain situations when the offense is subbing, but you want guys that have enough position versatility that, like I said, that can play first through fourth.
You've got a lot of depth there on the interior, on the front. How many players do you realistically feel like you can rotate, get in, and play on a regular basis?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you want to be able to rotate as much as possible. You know, to have that exact answer today, I will let you know as we get going forward. But you know, we feel like we got 6 to 8 to 9 guys that we can rotate. But again, that's ballpark. We're gonna see how that goes going forward here. You know, we talk about the competition thing. You know, guys got to earn it every single day. You know, we don't want to seek comfort in our past and all those things. So we talk about that going forward. I mean, you got to show up ready to work, and we know it all starts up front. It starts up front in any league, but specifically in this league, it starts up front. And we do think we have some guys that we can get in the rotation. There's no doubt about it, but we got to go earn it right now.
What does it mean for this defense to have Owen back and finally healthy? And I guess, just from coaching him last year, how difficult was it for him to deal with that injury and then this spring while recovering from that too?
Right, and that's the first thing, for him, for the player. Not everybody sees Owen, what he looks like. He can run, he can do all those things, but him as a person, the way he goes about his business, the way he prepares, like he is one guy that is dedicated to preparation, and to have that happen to him, man, it was heartbreaking. And he really, really wanted to come back and all those things. It wasn't the season that he wanted. Now, going forward, he shifted gears and it's been full speed ahead. He's been standing on the gas. I'm excited to watch him. I'm excited for him, really to take that next step forward, not only as a player, but as a leader. He's another one of those guys that does the right things, brings guys along with him. And that's really all we can ask, is that he keeps doing those two things, making sure that he is prepared and then brings somebody along with him.
I think this summer we saw Joko Willis, hanging out with the edge group, a
Mhm.
couple gatherings. Is he going to be working at the edge? Or is
Yeah, he'll be working at the edge group, hybrid type position.
Is Owen a guy that will be kind of your guy that runs the show on defense, or who you kind of be leaning to at that linebacker position to be the
Yeah,
guy?
he certainly will be one of them. There's no doubt about it. And I think to be a great defense, I think you have to have a couple of those guys. I think you have to have a guy up front, you have to have a guy in the middle, and you have to have a guy on the back end. If you look at the great defenses that have played the game at any level, usually there's a guy on every level, and certainly he is that on level 2.
Coach, what are you expecting out of Leota this year?
Man, I'm excited for him. He really dedicated himself to the weight room, to his pass, worked on his pass rush, worked on his preparation. To say what I expect, I have a high standard for him. Our edge position, those two, Derek Hall and Eku, we have hold them in very high regard, and I think the challenge for guys like that is to be consistent. You're a very good player. Can you be very good day in and day out? Because they all got things to work on too. And we just talked about a new player versus a veteran player. There's a little bit different level. If they're learning it, are they developing it? Are they enhancing their skills? And we're trying to really hone in on the things that each guy has. Because at the end of the day, it's by ability. Not every player is the same, but he has the ability to stop the run and pressure and confuse the quarterback.
Those two guys, Derek and good role models for Dylan, who probably needs to step up this year.
Absolutely, and that's one thing. I think we right now have some guys that if you were a young player coming in the room, if you're paying attention and you're aware of what's going on, man, you're gonna start paying attention to what those guys are doing. And those guys also are pros in the way they go about things, where they're trying to help the guys behind them. When you start teaching it too, you're going to learn some things and have some better quality questions. And those guys do a great job of trying to pour into the young guys.
I think Eku said in the spring that him and Derek are both kind of trying to eye double-digit sacks this season. Is that a realistic expectation for the two of them?
Hey, I think anything's realistic, right? It's just the work we put in and situations that come up. But they're very talented players. I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm sure they have that written on their wall somewhere, but I'm excited to have them.
With Cam and Wesley, guys are sort of grown together now, competing against each other. What do you sort of see as each of their individual strengths?
Yeah, and I think that they're obviously built a lot different, right? But they play in the middle, and they're both have some versatility about them. As far as strengths, Wesley's very vocal. I'll say that. He's a very vocal player. Cam does a great job in his role. Cam, has put on a ton of weight. First and foremost, our strength staff did a great job. I want to mention that. Coach Pitt and his staff did an awesome job. And if you look at Cam Riley from the time I walked in to the time now, you barely recognize him. But he had to put in that work as well, and he's very athletic for a guy of his length. And so it's just coming along and building and picking one or two things each day to progress on. But we're excited for both of them. I mean, certainly they're in that competition. They both want to play. They both have roles on special teams. And right now it's about taking the next step for both of them.
Anything else?